We have way more ways to connect than any generation before us. So, why do so many people feel alone? I think breweries might help explain what we've actually lost. This video is not like normal, it's not going to be completely about beer. We're talking community, phones, social media, third places. That's where the breweries come in at, and why people still need somewhere to go that is not home or work. Because the more breweries I visit, the more I'm realizing people are not just showing up for what's in the glass anymore. They're showing up for like the trivia night, the run clubs, the live music, the regulars, bartenders who remember their name, that one table where the same group always sits. I know we've all seen them. It's a place where everyone just feels like they belong. Beer is the excuse, connection is the point. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Tapped In here at BrewBodz Barbells, where we lift pints and weights. And today's episode is going to be a little different. This isn't like a beer spotlight. It's not about a brewery closing kind of story. This one's deeper. I've kind of sat on this one for a bit because I wasn't sure if I was going to record this one or not. But the more I keep looking around and thinking, how are we more connected than ever, but somehow more disconnected at the same time? We can message anyone in seconds, right? We can see what people are doing across the world on a small screen in your pocket. We can watch lives, reels, shorts, stories, podcasts, streams, news, workouts, beer releases, everything, right? I fit in a little bit of everything there. And there's no shortage of connection tools, but a tool is not the same thing as a relationship. A follow is not the same thing as a friendship. A like is not the same thing as as being known by the person. And a comment section is not the same as like somebody sitting across from you, right? Looking at you in your eye and asking how you're actually doing. And I think that's where a lot of people feel the gap. And this is not going to be anything crazy. It's just a lot of things that I think are going to be connecting within the industry and everything else. And so we're surrounded by a lot of digital noise, but starving for that real presence. And I'm not saying technology is evil. I use it, you use it. This whole channel lives because of it. I have met so many great people on social media through my channels that I would have met. I'm telling you right now, I got people from like Quebec. I've got guys from Japan. I've got all kinds of people from across the United States. Like, I have found breweries, stories, businesses, and opportunities because of these platforms. So this is not one of those like throw your phone in the ocean and live in a cabin kind of speech, you know what I'm saying? But I do think we need to be honest. Social media gives us access to people, but it doesn't automatically give us connection that we're looking for. And there's a difference because connection requires a presence, and it requires time, repeated interactions, real conversation. It requires being in the same room sometimes. The small stuff. So, like, one thing I've done is like I've reached out to influencers or I've reached out to businesses, and I've either scheduled a time to talk with them over, some chat, or, video conference or something, or just made the trip. I have attended conferences, I've seminars, um, you know, brew days where we can like actually break bread, meet, and like so like anytime I'm talking about a company like I feel good about, I just know I have met them in person, hung out with them, worked alongside them. Like it's never been, just like a random thought. And so, it this does require the small stuff, the inside jokes, the bartender remembering your order. Like there's so many great things that come from like getting to know people. And, it's not something that like an algorithm can real fully replace. I know on different media platforms, you got social medias, but then you got YouTube that also has a different algorithm. So people that actually want to see this video or any of my videos are probably not going to unless like a like, comment, or like a subscribe. Something like that always has to occur that I've been seeing in order to get in front of the audience that actually wants to hang out and, grow with us. And so I think breweries show us that because when I walk into a brewery, yes, I care about the beer. Of course I do, right? I want to know the style, the malt, the hops. the story behind the label. I've talked about that many times on my social media, especially, and then you'll hear. Um, that is the beer nerd side of me. I was big into science growing up, and so like that was kind of like a thing for me. But the longer I do this, the more I realize that beer is only a part of the reason because people are showing up. People show up because they want somewhere to be, somewhere that feels alive and local, somewhere that, gives a reason to leave the house and be around other people. And that matters. Like for me, I know watching a movie at the theaters, I can easily rent it or, put it on like Amazon Prime or something like that and watch it. But going to the movie theaters, bringing the family, hanging out, and just watching it, feeding off the crowd, like that is like exciting to me. And there is a thing called the third place, and so there's something that actually I've been doing a lot of reading on, and so like there's a really cool article here. So I'm gonna jump over here real quick. And so, like this article right here from a project for public spaces, Ray Oldenburg, known internationally as the author of the Great Good Place, in which he coined the term the third place and made a cause for the importance of informal public gathering places. He defined the term as a generic destination or designation for a great variety of public spaces that host the regular, voluntary, informal, and happily anticipated gatherings of individuals beyond the realms of home and work. Like that's that third place that everyone is accustomed to, right? So obviously we know the first place is your home, the second place is your work. Both those places you spend a crazy amount of time at. But the third place, that is the spot that where community truly happens. A coffee shop, a barber shop, a gym, a local bar, a brewery, a place where people gather without it feeling like a formal appointment kind of thing. And I think we've kind of like lost a lot of that, or at least we've made it harder. A lot of people go from home to work back home, or now with remote work. I unfortunately can't do that, but like for the remote work, it might just be home to home with a laptop in between. And then at night, we scroll, right? We consume, we compare, we watch everyone else living their highlight reel while we're sitting there wondering why our life feels quieter than theirs. And I think the comparison is brutal. Obviously, I listen to like a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. So I'm always intertwined in like hearing people talk and think, right? And that's a part of me why I jumped into bringing the long form content in because I can't squeeze everything into a 3 minute video when I'm trying to explain these great companies that I've spent the time with their teams and like learned about them. And so I can't fit all of that information into like a 3 minute video. So I wanted to find a way to make that to the masses. And so um, I do think that comparison is brutal, but because it it used to be if you compared your life to someone else's, it was probably someone in your town, right? Growing up, someone at work, in your family, in your neighborhood. But now, man, you're comparing your normal Tuesday to someone's best 5 seconds from across the world. Like their vacation, their body, their business, their beer trip, the gym PR, their brewery collab, which I've been seeing a lot of. Great work on everybody getting that. But their viral moment, and even though it's curated, it still hits, right? The thing that a lot of people don't realize, they put a lot of that work in, but at the same time, it's like you can't compare that to. And because your brain is not always sitting there thinking, this is a high edited highlight reel designed for engagement, right? You got that small window of time. That's just the way it works. Your brain is already saying, why am I behind? And so that's a weird way to live. And again, I'm saying this as someone that's trying to build on these platforms. So I'm not standing on the outside pretending I'm above it. I'm in it too. I post, I create, I look at the numbers, I watch the views. Me being in a data guy, like I do this, for a living as well. I try to find stuff within the numbers. And so, I can't help but do that in my own personal, in my brand as well, in my company. So like I get excited when people comment. I love the interactions because I like to feedback and talk to people. And so I want BrewBodz and Barbells to grow, of course, but I also know that none of that replaces real life. And so that's why I like to go out to these events and actually like hang out. People are surprised about that. They're just like, "Oh man, I thought you were just on Instagram." And I'm like, "No, dude, I love being around the people and like learning and growing. The best way I can learn is obviously being in front of you and applying it, not just like reading in a book." And so a viral video is cool, but it is not the same thing as sitting at that brewery, talking to someone who actually gets what you were trying to build. That is different. And I think a lot of people are craving that difference. That's why run clubs are growing. I don't know if you've noticed, but at these breweries across the country, there are run clubs, great run clubs that are just popping up. There's ruck groups that I'm starting to see, which is great for me because I've put on a ruck group before and it was great. I loved it. It's lower impact. So, but that's why gyms become like second families in a way because that, like breweries, they have trivia nights, the mug clubs, like I talked about, bingo, the farmers markets, the charity events, release parties, basically community based things because people don't just want the product, right? They want that excuse to gather. Let's be honest. Some people do look for that excuse. They want a reason to show up. They want a reason to belong to it. And that's where beer has always been interesting historically on all the research I've done. Taverns and pubs were not just places to drink, they were places where people exchanged news. A modern way of that is like golf or something like that, where people gather. But they used to talk politics, made deals, shared stories, argued, laughed, built those friendships. You know, um, they became known through that channel. And like the beer mattered, but the room mattered more. And when I look at modern breweries, I see that same thing trying to happen again. Not perfectly, uh, and definitely not everywhere, but when it works, you can feel it. You can walk into a great brewery and there's a pulse. Like people are at the bar talking. Maybe there's a couple playing cards, brought the dogs. They're just like relaxing. They can do that at home, but they decided to do that here. You'll see kids running around outside, um, supervised and non-supervised. There's a fun topic of discussion there, but a dog, sitting under the table, like I said, someone wearing the brewery shirt because it means something to them. A brewer, walking through, talking to regulars, an owner even. So I know Palmer at Munkle Brewing out of Charleston is very known for that. He's in and out of everything. It's great to see. A bartender can give someone a sample because they are trying to figure out what they like, right? The interaction as a whole. Obviously, it comes from one piece, but like that interaction, that customer might not have had the opportunity to talk to anybody that day, and that's the first interaction, and so that's a great opportunity. It's not just the beverage, right? It's the social infrastructure that breweries are there for as well. Um, I know this sounds like a big phrase for like a place with pint glasses and food trucks outside, but it is what it is. It's a place where people connect, and that is valuable because, especially now, because loneliness is not like some small thing. This is not just some people are sad, right? The Surgeon General has actually talked about loneliness, and I got that pulled up. So let me hop on here. Let me see where to go. Where to go? So I pulled this up right here. All right. So the Surgeon General has actually talked about loneliness and isolation as a real public health issue. Like it's there, right? So I pulled this up and I've been reading through this HHS.gov Surgeon General Social Connection Advisory from 2023. It is one heck of a read, but like there is so much behind social connection that like affects our personal psyche and our body as a whole. Like I took a lot of time. I read through like a bunch of this. I did not finish it. I am gonna finish this though because like it covers a lot of range of topics in here. But the Gallup, right? So where did it go? Where did it go? This right here. So the Gallup has actually reported that there is a significant share of adults that feel lonely. And, younger men in the US among the loneliest in the West as a whole, right? If you see 1 in 4 US men under the age of 35 report feeling lonely, like there could be so many reasons for this. I mean, I'm under that window. A lot of y'all may not know that, but I do. I guess I do follow in the younger men category currently in the U.S. But like they've done these really uniquely lonely compared with their counterparts in other rich countries. So like there's been a whole bunch of different ways that you can kind of look at this, and whether you feel that personally or you see it around you, and I mean it's a real public health issue. And so I think a lot of us know something feels off when that's the case, right? People are busy but disconnected. They're informed but overwhelmed. Too much information, it's not a good thing either. So people are like entertained, but they're still restless, and connected, but feel alone still. We have endless content, to be honest. Like you can lose yourself in YouTube or a TikTok scroll or an Instagram, like if you're just scrolling through a search engine, like but there's fewer conversations happening. I mean, we have the convenience, but less reason to leave the house. Groceries can be ordered from your app and delivered to your house. Food literally comes to your door. Movies stream right at home. Like I said earlier, work actually happens at home as well. Shopping happens at home. I can sit right here on this laptop and buy everything I need to, never leave the house. And um I mean even meetings happen through a screen. Like if I got to work, late at night or something like that after hours talking to people in like Japan or Guam or, anything like that, like boom, right there. I'm talking to got people across the world and I never had to leave my chair. And, you know, um, I'm a dad. I work full time. I have a family. I train. I make content. There are times, convenience saves the day, of course. But convenience can quietly steal community if you're not careful. Because if everything just comes to us, we stop going out to places where life actually happens around other people. And I think that's a part that hits me because a lot of people don't lose community in one dramatic moment. It can. We have seen that in the past, but they lose it slowly generally. One skipped event, one less phone call they make, one more night just doom scrolling, one more, I'll go next time, or I'm too tired. I've been super guilty of that. And I don't, I don't really know anybody there, so I'm not going to go. And, I've made that mistake in the past. And that's why, like, I really try to refrain from that one. Because I mean, you don't know anybody, sure, but there are people there that don't know anybody either. And they went there to just talk and learn. And, you never know what you're going to spark up. I have sparked up ridiculous conversations with insane people from around the world, and it's been great. The world can get smaller though if you stay in that bubble. Basically, home, work, phone, repeat, and that's not how we're built to live. We need people, we need the spaces, we need shared rituals, and that's where BrewBodz Barbells starts to feel bigger than I originally thought. At first, this brand was beer and fitness. Lift pints and weights. Go to breweries, train hard, drink beer, tell stories. But the more I do this, the more I'm realizing the deeper thread is community, and that's why I've dove so hard into storytelling. The gym is a community. The brewery is community. Veteran spaces are community. Your Ruck Brews. A brewery spotlight is not just promoting a beer. It is showing people that a place that they haven't visited yet, right? So it's like I'm bringing it to the masses that they've never heard of this place probably ever before. But surprise, surprise, their vacation is gonna take them through a route of that town. They saved the video, they kept it for later so that way they could go check it out in the end. And I get DMs all the time about that, and I love it. Like even if it's like one a week or something like that. Like I just love when I'm like, oh man, I tried that beer that you talked about, or I visited that brewery you talked about or showcased recently. Like that's why the storytelling matters. It's I'm trying to connect it to something local because when I talk about a brewery, I don't want to just say, this IPA has citrus notes and soft mouth feel. In the beginning, when I was really studying for the Cicerone, I got focused on the beer side, right? but that's fine. But there's a place for that. And so what I tried to do is I wanted to be completely different. I wanted to, yes, combine that with the story behind the brewery and why it's important. And so, why they made it, why they chose to go that route, why the can label was that choice, and, what the brewery means to the neighborhood, what people gather there for, what events they host, what stories are sitting behind that bar. And I've learned that with working with brewers and owners, and it's phenomenal. I really enjoy it, like, because this is what makes people care. Like, the beer gets you in the door, yes. The people bring you back, though. Like, that might be the whole episode right there. Like, the beer gets you in the door and the people bring you back. And that's not just true to breweries. I mean, look at it from a business standpoint. It's true for gyms, churches, clubs, barbershops, local coffee shops, um, veteran groups. That's a big one too. It's true for any place where people can show up repeatedly and become known. That the word matters. Unknown, I know a lot of people don't just want to be seen, they want to be known as well. There's a difference. Being seen can happen online. Being known takes time. It's, being known is when someone notices you haven't been around, or, remembers what you're working on, or someone that asks about, your kid or your job or your training or your project, or when you stop, being just another person passing through. I took a couple of breaks in between posting on social media. Life got super busy, and I was basically recording constantly, right? I was building stories and talking to all these companies, and then I took like 2 weeks off, just focused on a bunch of things I had going on, and I once I came back, they're like, dude, where you been? I got hit up in, the messages. I thought you disappeared. I thought you left. I was like, no, I'm here. I just had to take some time off, and that's a little bit about that being known thing. Like, it is a little slightly noticeable, when you take that time off. And I think a great brewery can do that. Not because beer is magic. I'm not gullible like that, but because the space creates the opportunity. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not saying breweries solve loneliness, and I'm definitely not saying alcohol is the answer to isolation. That would be the completely wrong message that I'm trying to get away from here. So, what I am saying is that places matter, rituals matter, showing up matters, those shared experiences, especially. And breweries can be one of those places when they take community, that that community piece seriously. Like, it can go a long way, and that's why I think the business side matters. If breweries are struggling, if tap rooms are closing, if the third places disappear, we lose more than beer options. That's what I definitely want to get covered today. We lose those gathering places. We lose the local stages, the rooms where people meet. And yes, breweries are businesses. They need revenue. They need margins. They need events that work. They need great staff, great beer. They need smart marketing. But when a brewery is doing it right, it can become something bigger than the transaction itself. And that's why I think the future of craft beer cannot just be chasing the next trend. It can't just be, you know, a hazy IPA one month, a lager the next, the non-alcoholic the next, THC drinks after that, or whatever else the market throws at us, right? Those things matter, but the deeper question is, what role does this brewery play in people's lives? Is it a place where people just buy a pint? Is it a place where people feel welcome, bring their friends? Is it a place that gives people a reason to get out of the house? You know, um, is it a place that helps the neighborhood feel more like a neighborhood? I know a bunch of them are in like business parks, but like I have been to so many breweries that are in neighborhoods. That's the bigger conversation, I think. And honestly, I think the breweries have understood that. for like I'd say the big part of that, and that's an advantage because products can be copied, styles can be copied. I mean, a bunch of people use these apps that they build recipes in as well, and so like everyone could be kind of creating the same concept, you know. But community itself is super hard to fake. You can feel when it's real, when the staff cares, when the regulars love the place. They talk about it. Trust me, you'll know almost immediately if you sit at the bar. But you'll feel when the event is not just like a sales tactic, but part of the brewery's identity. And I do not want to start ruffling feathers, but there are quite a bit of breweries that I have been to that it just feels like they're just there as a sales tactic to get you in, get you out. Um, and I don't really mess with that too much. I don't really, spend too much time around that. But I move on to the next, but that's, for the community. And so like you can feel it when the brewery is actually woven into the community and it's powerful. And that's the part I want, for BrewBodz and Barbells to be chasing. It's not just what's in the glass, it's what's around it, who's around it, why it matters. Because beer was never just about beer, it was about the table, the room, the conversation, the story, the song, the game you're playing there, like the post workout pint, the veteran who finally opens up because he's sitting with people who understand him or her. The dad who gets one night out and remembers he's still a person outside of bills and bedtime routines. Dad or mom, you know, the I'm just saying it from my standpoint, but a brewer who gets to see people enjoy something that they spent the time creating. The This is for the regular who walks in and hears, "What's up, man? Haven't seen you in a while." That's the stuff right there. That's the bread and butter, and that's why these places matter. So I guess my take is this: we do not need less technology. We need more intention behind what we're doing. We don't need to delete every app on our phone. We need to stop pretending apps can just replace every room, though. We don't need to romanticize the past like everything else used to be so perfect. It wasn't. Let's not kid ourselves there, but maybe we do need to kind of rebuild some of those habits we've lost. Show up somewhere, join something, talk to somebody, go to a trivia night, check out a run club. If you're new, just know a lot of run clubs, you can kind of walk them and you can still be a part of it. Um, Go to a brewery event, join the gym class, volunteer, call the friend, that you missed out on the phone call on. Just call. Sit at the bar instead of just hiding somewhere in the corner. You'd be surprised by how open a lot of people are at a bar. Not even deep in the drinks. It's just in general. Like you're already there. You're next to each other. A lot of times you just can't help but say, "Hey, how you doing?" So build your third place into your life before you realize you needed one, because connection usually doesn't happen by accident anymore. You have to kind of choose it, and that might be the hardest part, to be honest, because scrolling is easy, like I know. So staying at home is easy, ordering is easy, and I get it, man. A lot of people stay in because it's expensive. You don't need a lot. Like you can't see it on camera. My bicycle's right here. Like just if you got a family, take a family out on a bike ride. Like something. Go for a walk. Don't worry about it being crazy expensive or anything like that. Like just do something. And so, um, maybe the beer was never about the beer. I think that thought just keeps coming to my head. Maybe beer was the invitation, and the reason was to gather. The thing on the table with the real stuff happening around it. And if that's true, these breweries are not just fighting for beer sales, they are fighting to remain places where people can reconnect. That matters for the industry, for the community, and honestly for all of us. And so I just want to ask you this: where do you find community right now? Is it a brewery, a church, a gym, a veterans group, a barbershop, a local coffee shop? Like, or do you feel like there's something you're still looking for? I'd love to hear this. Drop it in the comments. because I really want this one to kind of like be a conversation piece. This is like, obviously I know a little bit different, but it's still tied into the industry. And if this episode made you think like it did for me, I kind of sat on this for a minute and just kind of wrote notes that I can kind of like come back to like on the thought process while I'm making this video for y'all. Make sure you like the video. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. Follow along over on my Instagram at BrewBodz and Barbells. I'm gonna keep bringing you craft beer stories, industry breakdowns, brewery spotlights, and deeper conversation about what's actually happening behind the pint. Because there's always more going on behind the pint than you realize. So, guys, I'll see you on the next one. I'm Bennett with BrewBodz and Barbells. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.